Hi everybody, this is Irene and
Kara.
And we're here from the Collier County Library, and today we are discussing a very interesting book.
Lessons in Chemistry.
So, Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. Now, Bonnie Garmus, when she's not writing, is an editor, and she has also, she does freestyle swimming, which I'm not, or long range swimming. I think it's like where you're way out there swimming. I don't know, I'm not a swimmer. And then she writes when the characters come to her head. So that's exactly how she explained it. She said the characters come in, they start speaking to me, and then I have to write about them. So this is her, her first novel, and it is Lessons in Chemistry. All right, so our first question is we always do this. Overall, on a Goodreads scale, which is a star between 1 and 5, what do you give this book?
On Goodreads, I gave it a 3.
Okay, so I gave it a 3.5, almost a 4. So we're a little different in our ratings. One of the things that the reason I did give it almost a 4 was I thought it had some real good substance in it when it came to speaking about women in the 60s and what they went through and how she was a jet setter basically in the field of science. And I think that's really happening in today's generation too. We still don't have as many women in science as men, and I think it's still tough to be in that field and to be a woman. What do you think?
I think that's right. That's probably what I enjoyed most about the book. I shouldn't say enjoyed, but it was very truthful in what it was saying. It really impacted the story more to me, what was discussed as far as being a woman, being a chemist, being a professional, with all of the men around her, how she was treated, what they did, what they said. And that was the best part for me, was listening, reading all of that information.
Everybody tuning in, we are going to do spoilers, so if you don't want to know what happens at the end of the book, don't listen to us right now, listen to us after. So the second question we have is towards the end of the book, there's a Life magazine writer who comes to write a story about her. And he basically is surprised by an audience member, because he's kind of taking notes and she's doing her cooking show. And the audience member says, sometimes I think that if a man were to spend a day being a woman in America, he wouldn't make it past noon. Prepare for a revolt. Do you think that's true today? Do you think being a man and a woman in this world is in some ways still similar to them?
Yeah, I think we still have this stereotype to where men and women now, the equality. Everybody wants a job, 8 hours a day, 9 to 5, because women want to have that career, that profession, everything they were kind of denied years ago. But they're also supposed to be in charge of raising the children, cooking the dinner, doing the grocery shopping, doing the laundry. I think some men, not all, there are stay-at-home fathers, not just stay-at-home moms, stay-at-home dads. But I do believe it is still very imbalanced. And if a man were to take on a woman's tasks for the day, he would be shocked, probably. Like I said, not all men.
I agree with you. I think definitely we do a lot more as women. We multitask because we have
That's
to.
The word, yeah.
All the time. And it's like you said, you're the child giver, you're the listening person for your husband, you're also the person or for your partner, you're also that person that's going to all the events. I think we haven't changed as much as I wished we would have, but I think we are making progress.
Yeah.
Go ahead and do question 3.
Okay, question. There is so much that Elizabeth and Calvin didn't tell one another, wouldn't confide, and yet they had a remarkably close relationship. Can a relationship have these gaps and still thrive? What do you think?
I disagree. I think if you have major gaps in your marriage, I think that it almost comes out as untruth, possibly, or non-trust. And I think I don't know that you would be successful. But in the storyline, they were very successful. But I also felt like they were in the honeymoon period of their
Yeah.
relationship. So everything was peachy keen, and we were in love, and the people even sitting in the cafeteria with them were pretty much just gagged over the fact that they were so in love with each other.
Loving couple, I know.
What do you think?
I think, do you remember how long they were together?
I think just short of maybe 2 years, not very long.
Okay, so no, I do kind of agree with the relationship as far as the gaps and having things you wouldn't confide in yet. If it's a new relationship, there are things, even trust issues, I would be apprehensive about telling another person. That's a lot of trust you're putting into another person, and you don't know them as well as you think you do, even the honeymoon period. Also, it has to go back to certain insecurities that you have about yourself, and also you have this constant thought about, well, what if this changes their perspective of me? So I do think it can still thrive. I don't think it has to react into a relationship. It's not the right word, but
it doesn't have to be negative impact.
Right, impact. That's the word. It doesn't have to impact the relationship negatively. Whether or not it progresses that way, I don't know.
That's fair. And I think that's a good question. It would have been interesting to see if Calvin and her had stayed married longer, what would have happened.
But they weren't married.
No, they were not married. She would not get married.
No, she
was adamant about that. I'm not getting married. This is my favorite question. The name 630 is so unique and remarkable. What do you think of the name and the character? So do you want to talk about 630 a little bit?
I love 630. He was my favorite character out of the entire book.
If you don't know, he's a dog.
Yeah, he's a dog, sorry.
He is their dog. When she disagrees and basically says, I'm never marrying you, they concede to have a pet together.
Yeah.
And so they get this dog that comes up at 6:30, and they name him 6:30, which I think is hysterical.
Right, but they didn't go get the dog. He found her, the dog found her and followed her home.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, so he chose that. Even though they were talking about getting a dog, and that was the plan, he actually followed them home. And the
he was so
intelligence, of this dog, he never got to voice it in human words to the people, but just his thoughts and how he did react and the words he knew. It was incredible.
She was counting how many words this dog knew, because she was a scientist, and she had him in the book saying that he knew over 430 words. Yeah. I'm like, that's crazy. But this dog, there's a scene in the book where the dog is talking to the baby, and the baby's doing that goo goo gaga blah blah blah, and then the dog is sitting there listening and talking, and she's like, I swear he's listening to what she's saying and understands it. And I laugh because the intones and our inflections, I know my dog when I go, oh, what is that?
Oh yeah.
They know in a second it's something bad.
Oh, yeah.
So I think sometimes they're smarter than we give them credit for.
I think so.
But yes, he makes the story. He's awesome. Go ahead.
Are women less exposed to sexual harassment in the work environment now than in the 60s?
So, I think it is true. I think they're less exposed to it because there's a lot of awareness brought to it.
More, yeah.
Most places that I've ever worked have a sexual harassment class. They discuss it. However, I still think it happens a lot. I think there's still a lot of places, some places where they have a good old boy network that's still in play. And I think, I had one job, it was not here at the county, where the man expected me to go get him coffee just because I was a woman. And it was like, I'm the same, we're both project managers, why am I going to go get you coffee? Yeah. But that type of thing. So in the book, she is exposed to not only harassment, but rape in the book.
She is, yep.
And
harassment more than once in different forms. Some of it sexual, some of it
just because she was a woman, she didn't get credit for her work. People stole credit for her work. Oh. When she was getting ready to get her PhD, she was basically raped by her professor, so she couldn't go on and go in and get her PhD. Yeah. So she really went through a lot of trouble with men, and it was very tough. And I think in the 60s, like we were talking, it's hard to be in into the STEM, science, technology, something in math. Look, engineering and math. Thank you. Basically, I think it's hard in this time period. I think it would have been really hard in the 60s. Because they were kind of like, okay, women, you can kind of go out in the workforce and be a secretary, but you're not a chemist.
No, and here's a big spoiler. Can I do a big spoiler? So during it's near the beginning of the book when she was raped by her, was it her boss?
It was her professor.
Professor.
Yep.
She was trying to defend herself, kicking, trying to struggle, but she actually took a pencil and stabbed him with it. And later on, when he was getting checked out, she was asking to get medical attention and to go to the hospital. And the cop is having her apologize to the man who raped her because she had stabbed him. And I think it has changed slightly because there are a lot more programs, like you said, but it's also more exposed. That's, for lack of a better word, because when they do come forward, they're believed more. Maybe they're not expected to apologize, and maybe they're not all believed all the time, but there is a lot more awareness, I think, than what happened here, because she was supposed to apologize for stabbing her rapist.
It was terrible. It's just, she's a tough cookie.
Yeah.
She is,
and also,
definitely.
Not just the sexual harassment in here, but she went through so much verbal harassment with people demeaning her and the constant condescension. Like, she didn't know what she was talking about. They were smarter than her and things like that, which they really were not. She was brilliant.
One of the cool things about Elizabeth Zaw, who is the main character of the book, was she had no formal education. And yet she was able to self-educate thanks to her library card. With the advent of technology, the library almost seems outdated to some people. Do you think libraries are still important, and if so, why?
Yeah, other than working at one, I have used one my entire life, and it has always worked out good for me. But no, the knowledge we have here, the technology now, and I know in the book they didn't have the technology that we do now, but to take her library card and to go to the library with the books that she opened, it could be, anything. And it was also a sense of community. It's a great place for, she got assistance from, was it the librarian at her age? And then her daughter had assistance from the...
he ends up being a gentleman that was writing her partner. He was the priest.
Oh yeah, the priest.
The
there you go. That's the word.
It is definitely a community center now. In where you come and you share knowledge. I think it's becoming more and more of that as a place to congregate and be able to share knowledge. We come to the library every day. We see tutoring going on. We see people studying to take tests. We see study groups. And we see even just people loving to come in and come to our programs where they're wanting to discuss different thoughts on different ideas. So I think it's definitely a place to share knowledge and to gain knowledge.
Yeah. And a lot of it has not changed since the 60s. Patrons still come in to educate themselves on, yes, we have computers, yes, we have tutors, we have the technology, wireless and everything, but they still come to look in books to get information.
Absolutely.
And that's the important part to me.
Why do you think Elizabeth always wears a pencil in her hair? Is it a weapon or is it a symbol of strength?
Both. It's a symbol of strength to show what she has been through, what she has conquered in the past. But if needed, it is there where she needs it for a weapon.
I think it's twofold too. She wears the pencil in her hair also because she does this all the time. Because it's a tool that she uses on a regular basis too.
That's true. She does even make a comment about a pencil, not a pen, because you make mistakes and you can erase your mistakes.
But obviously the first time we were talking about when she was raped, she stabbed the guy with a pencil, so it's definitely a weapon. And I think it's a reminder to her that she is brave enough and tough enough to overcome anything, because she's been through a lot. And then, at this point, her partner passes away, and finds out she's pregnant, and she never wanted to be a mom.
No.
She didn't really have any desire to be a mom. So now she's an unwed mother who then gets fired for being pregnant. She can no longer work there. So, but in the meantime, while she's doing this chemistry show, all the people from her work are coming to her to get answers on things and ask her questions about things because they know how smart she is and that she can help them. And it's amazing to me how resilient the character is in the book. We're almost to the end. This is number 8. Madeline, which is her daughter, has to make a family tree. Yeah, they call her Mad. A family tree and bring it in. Well, most people have, this is my mom, my dad, my grandfather. Well, she really didn't have that. So she put people on her family tree like Amelia Earhart, Nefertiti, and a bunch of other famous people because her mom and her believed that basically all humans are alike, 99.99% alike. And the question is if we're so alike, why do we treat each other so differently?
Everyone's unique. That's the simplest answer. If the percent, that's the chemical balance. That doesn't, the chemical balance, yes, it's like water is H2O, but then if you get water here or from this spring or from it's all going to taste different. And if you add something to it, if you take something out of it, it's, we are all unique. And as far as her, I would like to add to that. You answer it first and then I'll go into my rant.
Why do we treat each other so differently? I think that you can put a composite of people and say, your blood, your guts, you're this, you're that. But ultimately, humans also, I believe, have a soul or a different piece of yourself that is ignited and that teaches you to either be kind or not kind. Or, and I think also environment plays a big factor. I think, were you created this way or were you made this way? And I think I'm one to believe both sides, that you are created and made. I think your environment definitely impacts you as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you have
my rant? Okay.
Yes.
So her family tree, all the humans, she uses it to fill in what she doesn't have, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, siblings, things like that. So she fills it in the best of her knowledge. She goes to the library, helps, the priest helps her find out the place where her dad went to school and things like that. But all of those names, these are the names of the characters in the book. And this is one thing I didn't appreciate because you have Mad and Elizabeth Zott, Amanda Pine, Walter Pine, Myers, Zott, Frask, Dickman, Mason, Sloan, Mudford. Every time I read one of these names, I had to go back to remember who they were. Because I don't know if they played such small parts, they weren't memorable, but Dr. Mason is the men's team captain, the rowing. Was that pertinent to the book at all?
I don't know, but there was a lot of rowing.
It didn't matter. None of it. It had nothing to do with the plot. It was just kind of shoved in there.
He was a rower. She had to become a rower. They talked excessively about rowing in this book, and I didn't enjoy it at all.
But it didn't go anywhere. Did it go anywhere?
No, and don't even think it really was a great development. It was just put in there it is one of her hobbies because I learned that about the author, but I think she just put it in there maybe because she loves rowing, but it was definitely not my favorite.
And maybe the author just shoved it in there. One more thing.
Yes.
But now I've lost my train of thought. The chemistry.
Oh yes, the chemistry in the book.
The first half of the book, I was with it. It was great. By the time I got halfway and had to keep reading it, I was kind of over the chemistry. Even when she started her cooking show, Supper at 6, which she discussed all about chemistry. And I think it was the first or second episode, they had people calling in to ask what certain things were, and her producer, director, writer, whomever it was that she worked closest with, was answering the phones, and she was answering the phones, and the answer was, oh, that's vinegar. Then say vinegar. I was really done
with H2O.
I was. And so the last half I struggled through. I don't know. I wouldn't really recommend it. Okay, sorry, next question. That was my rant.
That's all right. The book is full of reprehensible characters. Who causes the most harm in your eyes? I think the worst one was, his name was Donati. And he is the one that basically, there was all of this money being given to the lab for her to study a certain part of chemistry. And they basically took all of her work and sold it to other people and put it off as being theirs. And it doesn't come out until the very end. There is a victory there, and where it's discovered that it's actually her work, and it comes out. And but even when she's discovered, it's not always in a positive way. You know, when the Life reporter came to talk about her, they did this huge interview. He put all this great information about her in a positive light, and then it was all about what she wore and what she did as a mother and all the pieces and parts, but it wasn't about being a chemist. Going back to our original question now, that we had a good discussion, what would you rate the book and why?
I think that was my rant that I just had prior. I rated it a 3 on Goodreads. I probably wouldn't recommend it. Like I said, I enjoyed the first half. The last half I had to struggle through. And I wonder if it's because I had enough by the halfway mark of the book that I really wasn't into it. I timed how many pages I had to read each day to have the book done by today. And I forced myself to read that many pages. So that right there said I really didn't enjoy the book.
I think the book would have been a better book for me if it hadn't been hyped up so much. It was touted as the book of the year. You know, Barnes and Noble was like, this is the book of the year, and Good Housekeeping, and there were so many people that said this was the book of the year. You need to read it. And I think if I read it and it didn't have all of that hype, maybe I would give it a little bit more credit and appreciate it more. But it really rang kind of flat.
It did.
It was kind of flat. So I wouldn't give it a great score now that I'm really thinking about it. I said closer to a 4. Now I'm thinking probably closer to a 3. Yeah. But overall, I always enjoy a good book discussion. Thank you, Miss Kara.
Oh, one more comment.
Yes.
Going off of what you said, the hype. I've had several patrons return this book while I've been working out there, and they said, we don't know what the hype was about. So it's not just us. Not just us.
But we would love your feedback. If you want to leave us some thoughts in the comments of whether or not you really liked the book and if you enjoyed it. And so lastly, we are going to do a Zoom discussion on this next Tuesday at 2 o'clock. And if you're interested in being part of that Zoom call, please visit our webpage. It's collierlibrary.org/events. And you can find our Facebook, our event there, and it will be the Zoom discussion and if you sign up and register, I'll make sure I'll send you the link for the Zoom. So there we go. I don't know if we can see everything.
No, probably not, but there it is.
But we've got it all set up, and we would love to hear your opinions, because I love it when somebody loved the book, because maybe there's something in here that I didn't think about.
Yeah, we'd love to hear your opinions, you know.
So please leave us a comment, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.